Hey everyone, it's Q&A day here at the Lucha Lounge, and you know what that means? It means that Steve DeMarco is going to answer your questions. I got a bunch of them, so let's begin. Apocalyptic Inferno. You want to know what got me into wrestling? What inspired me to get into wrestling? Was it a certain match? Was it a certain individual? Well, it's kind of both. I saw Ric Flair versus Kerry Von Erich for the NWA World Title in Texas Stadium for the David Von Erich Memorial, and that really got me to become passionate about wrestling. I became a big fan at that point. But probably the one wrestler that inspired me to get into wrestling was Shawn Michaels. So there you go. It's all good 200. Do you want to know what I think of the wrestling scene in the UK? And I hate to tell you, but without really seeing any wrestling in the UK or having been in the UK, I can't really give you a true, honest opinion of it. But if you know of any wrestling on YouTube or anything else where I can view it, I would love to view it. I would gladly review it and give you my opinion. But for now, can't really do it. Sorry. JPCYMRU wants to know, along the lines of the UK thing, what I think of WWE actually doing pay-per-views there. And I don't have a problem with it. I mean, they've done it in the past, like SummerSlam, and they've done their own pay-per-views, like Insurrection and so on and so forth. I mean, with them branching out and doing Raws and SmackDowns in the UK or Japan, I think, hey, if you're World Wrestling Entertainment, you might as well do it. And I look forward to it. That probably might even help out buy rates. You never know. Wrestling's big over there. So, WS Forums. You want to know how to get an interview with a wrestler from a journalistic standpoint. The best thing to do is to have a place where the interview would be seen, whether it be through a website, on paper, from a radio show, on YouTube, any number of ways. If you can get a wrestler to talk about himself, he's going to do the interview. So, you know, call around, ask. Wrestlers love to talk about themselves. Believe me, I know. I love to talk about myself. So if you ever want to do an interview with me, you let me know. But you had another question about hardcore wrestling, my opinion of it, especially at CZW. I've only seen a few shows of CZWs, and at that point it was lighting up the ring surrounded by fluorescent light bulbs, and light bulbs were the big thing, and I'm not a big fan of that. Hardcore wrestling, I've done my fair share. I've worked hardcore wrestling specialist. When the story's right, hardcore wrestling can work. Mick Foley made a career out of it. Same thing with Terry Funk. The death matches, I personally like to watch them, but I need to have a story to bring me in. Otherwise, it's just violence for violence, and I'm not that big of a big-time violence fan. Although I do like the Saw movies and Hostel. So hopefully that answers your question. Sponge Cake 7. What's my view of the NWA? What's my opinion of it? And the showcase? Well, I'm going to tell you this. I'm probably going to watch the showcases on NWAWrestling.com, and I will give you my true opinion of them after I watch all the episodes. As far as the NWA goes, they're always going to be around because they are the NWA. They are the National Wrestling Alliance. Even when they don't work with a bigger company, they always have their territories. From NWA Southwest to NWA Georgia to NWA Hawaii. I mean, they're always going to have territories, so they're always going to be running. I think having the world champion work with Ring of Honor, if Ring of Honor actually says, okay, that's an actual world title and you will face our world champion, then I give it up to Adam Pearce. But they're always going to be around. And I would love to work with them. So, Ken Taylor, you know who you are. NWA Southwest, dude. I'm in the area. So, look me up. CM Punk, 11-11, wants to know my feeling about Triple H. And about the politics. I will not cover the politics, and I'm going to tell you why I won't cover the politics. When I'm good and retired, when I'm done with wrestling, when I have no hope of going to WWE, TNA, or continuing to have associations with them, I'll gladly talk about politics and wrestling, and I will give you what what really goes down. But politics have always been in wrestling. Triple H just happens to be the poster boy now, and he doesn't help himself by being married to Stephanie. But I will say this, regardless of what you say about the guy, regardless of who you feel he's holding down, he's one man in a company. He doesn't have sole right to tell who's going to be pushed and who's not. He could probably say, hey, Vince, I don't like this guy. But ultimately, if a guy can perform, that's all that needs to be done. And if they don't like to be on Raw because Triple H is on Raw, then go to SmackDown or go to ECW. And earn your stripes there, and then say, man, I'm a bigger star. You know, guys like Cena. I mean, look what happened to him. But regardless of our opinions, if Triple H could not deliver in the ring, if he truthfully could not deliver, or had never delivered, then I would have a problem with it. But the reality is, I don't care who's the top dog. As long as they give me the opportunity, and as long as they allow me to flourish, great. So there you go. Plus, man, come on. I mean, Triple H has done plenty in the business. Yeah, you know, some people don't like his politics, but politics have always been there. You go to any local indie show, find out who the promoter is or find out who the booker is, and more than likely, well, there you go. I don't have to say anything else. Just go find out for yourself. Dangerous Q wants to know what happens when I get hurt and I can't wrestle. How do I pay the bills? Do I have a real job? Or do I wrestle through the pain? Now, I'm going to tell you, when I was PCW champion, I was always hurt. Always hurt. Yet I wrestled through the pain. Now, as far as paying my bills, independent wrestling's never paid my bills, unless you're working for like Ring of Honor or you're demanding high dollar. So there you go. IWAXI. It wants to know that if the wrestling business was as hard to break into now as it was in the 70s and 80s, would I have attempted to find a way in? Well, I think here's the one problem with that question is that you think it's easier to get into the wrestling business. You know, it's probably harder to get in initially, but it's hard to make money now. But back in the 70s and 80s, if I had found the right guy, man, I would have tried to find a way to break in. I mean, I'm a 70s guy. I was born in the 70s, so I would have loved to have been there, to be honest. I would have dug it, extremely dug it, and probably fit in right in and probably made some money. So there you go. Now, the last question was a very hard question for me to answer. The Black Crown Diamond. He had two, actually. Why do I feel I've never gotten a run at TNA or WWE? And the reality is probably timing. Not knowing the right people, not being in the right place. So many reasons. It's hard. You know, when I started, I just wanted to wrestle. I just wanted to wrestle a match. When I got to NWA, I thought that would have been a great amount of connections to go places. And being a part of them, and I was in the PWI Top 500, and I was in the NWA rankings. Actually, I was ranked like number 9 or number 10 in the world rankings for NWA at one point. When I was at PCW, I was living my dream. I was getting to book shows and performance shows and all of that. So, you know, when I first got in, it was about respect and listening to your elders and feeling like you belonged. And once I got to where I felt like I belonged, then I was at PCW and I was working every week. So, you know, twice a week sometimes. So it was hard to just say, well, do I really want to leave it for greener pastures? And I really just never knew had an end. I could submit a dozen or so tapes, you know, every day to WWE and never get a look. I could go to OVW, and I was always told that if you go there and you're not invited, then why would they sign you? Because they're already using you. So there's so many reasons. I think that with working with PWA and its association with TNA, that I will probably get a tryout at some point. Hopefully I'll get a look. I've been looked at by agents before, and they've liked my work. I think realistically, the best way for me to get into WWE or TNA is through you guys. is for you guys to get me more subscribers, help me get more subscribers, help me get more viewers. Word of mouth, get me book places, get me, not get me book places in the sense, but just demand, hey, we'd like to see Steve DeMarco. Start flooding. I'll work anywhere. I mean, if they pay me to get over there and they give me a little pay, a little money in my pocket, I'll gladly go work over there. And I'll bring the Lucha Lounge with me. And I'll tell you what I think of the show.